Hey guys, tonight we begin our journey into a world that seems far away yet is rich with detail and restful charm, a day in the life of a geisha. So, find a comfortable position, perhaps grab a soft blanket or a pillow, and as you settle in, remember to subscribe to our channel. If you feel inclined, let us know in the comments where and at what time you're listening. It's always nice to imagine our gentle history meandering through time zones and cozy spaces alike. As day breaks in Kyoto, the air is cool and delicate, a fresh promise of the warm sun that will soon embrace the cobblestone streets. The city awakens slowly, the soft chirping of early morning birds creating a gentle symphony that blends effortlessly with the faint rustle of bamboo leaves. The scent of damp earth and delicate cherry blossoms fills the air, reminding one that nature has always had a way of softening the harshness of everyday life. In a traditional tea house, the day of a geisha begins at dawn. They wake, curling into the silk of their bedrolls, mindfully inhaling the lingering smell of tatami mats, sharp yet earthy, as if the very fibers of nature breathe beneath them. It is a soft, unadorned space, the walls made of paper, letting the light filter in like a whispered secret. Here, they will spend their morning hours preparing for the day ahead, while the light outside shifts from gentle gray to a golden hue, pouring over the landscapes of their life, all while the warmth of the sun effortlessly glides in. Each geisha, or geiko, as they are affectionately known in Kyoto, rises early to begin their meticulous beauty routine. Imagine the ritual, a lavish process, layered like a well-crafted narrative, involving a series of steps that require precision akin to that of a fine artist engaged in the delicate dance of brush strokes across an ancestral canvas. First comes the cleansing, a task that makes one appreciate modern sanitary practices. Their soap, if it could speak, might whisper something like, "I smell vaguely like disappointment and goat." As they wash their faces, they are careful to use the purest of waters, as only the finest will do for the famed white makeup that will soon grace their skin. They apply layers of rice powder, quite literally turning their faces into a porcelain masterpiece, all while quietly wondering how it would feel to dash out for a quick swipe of foundation and a can of dry shampoo. As the scent of rice flour mingles in the air, they arrange their hair into intricate designs, transforming it into a statement of elegance and sophistication. Long black hair is tied into elaborate styles, adorned with combs and flowers, evoking the breathtaking delicacy of a springtime forest. Each tug and twist echoes the nuance of tradition, the years of practice evident in their nimble fingers. It's a far cry from just slapping on a hat to hide a bad hair day, and how nice would that be? The clothing they don, the kimonos, they are vibrant, with colors that tell stories and patterns that embody nature itself. A soft pull of heavy silk gathers around them, falling gracefully as they move about their small quarters. There's a pleasant texture to the fabric, thick enough to be comforting yet light enough to swirl with the wind when they step outside. The scent of natural dyes dances in the air, a reminder of the artisans who labored to create these pieces. Garments so stunningly layered, they almost require an instruction manual, like a Japanese Rubik's Cube. Once dressed, the geisha walks across the cool wooden floors, their footsteps producing a soothing tap-tap sound, distinctly different from the muted thud of modern sneakers against pavement. There's something calming about this delicate note, like a soft reminder of their graceful existence. They take a moment to look outside, where the streets begin to fill with the beloved aromas of breakfast, the special blend of miso soup cooking gently, rice steaming to perfection, and perhaps a hint of grilled fish, a diet that supports both body and tradition. With breakfast, they gather with other geisha and their apprentices. The atmosphere is relaxed yet focused, filled with light chatter, an undercurrent of camaraderie amid daily duties. They sip warm green tea, savoring the earthy taste, slightly vegetal, like a quiet nod to the mountains that cradle Kyoto. The gentle clinking of porcelain cups offers a soothing rhythm, a grounding accompaniment to the stillness outside. After their meal, the ritual of cleaning the tea house begins, a natural extension of life as a geisha. They sweep the floors, dust the subtle corners of the tatami rooms, and straighten tiny decorative pieces, a whimsical flower arrangement, the soft shimmer of traditional calligraphy adorning the walls. The texture of tatami pads beneath their bare feet feels like a soft embrace. As they tidy up, there is a moment to reflect on the oddities of their profession. The thrill of sweeping as an art form, what a daring choice compared to modern alternatives of mere dust-busting tools and ubiquitous vacuum cleaners. Gabbing about their lives while engaging in such mundane tasks underscores the odd blend of artistry and daily chores, both serving a purpose yet evoking different sentiments. Cleaning a tea house while dressed to the nines stands as a stark reminder of simplicity wrapped in intricacy. After their chores, it is time for a brief pause, an opportunity for contemplation. They gather in a small, serene courtyard, where the air is relaxed and the sounds of chatter fade into tranquil breezes. Perhaps a bird settles on a nearby branch, chirping its morning song, serving as a gentle reminder of the outside world, contrasting with the ever-cocooning atmosphere of their tea house. As they breathe in the scents of blossoming flowers and freshly cut grass, it might come to mind how they live an existence wrapped in the fabric of history, each day an echo of centuries of tradition underlying their lives. In this world, where every moment is draped in the lessons of the past and the demands of the present, a geisha is not just an entertainer but a devoted curator of graceful living, an ambassador to an ancient art form that quietly weaves itself into the fabric of everyday life. There is a stillness as they prepare for the evening, setting aside time for rest, healing, and reflection, understanding that even within the hustle and bustle of life, moments of silence are the palette to the brushstrokes of their existence, guiding them through a world both vibrant and peculiar. As we linger in this tranquil moment, the day in the life of a geisha unfolds gently. Objects around them remain in quiet harmony, each with its own story to tell. And as the sun rises higher, bringing warmth and light into the streets of Kyoto, perhaps you too can take a moment to sit with your own thoughts, a calm pause in the bustle of your day. The day stretches smoothly before a geisha, a serene canvas, ready to be painted with the gentle strokes of a morning ritual. With the dawn light filtering through delicate shoji screens, the atmosphere feels imbued with the promise of a day well lived. The soft sounds of the waking world mingle with the last caresses of night, nudging the geisha to rise from her peaceful slumber beside her fellow companions, nestled on tatami mats that exude nostalgia and the gossamer whispers of past lives. The fragrance of rice straw pervades the air, mingling with the faint, lingering scent of last night's sake, a gentle reminder of sweet delusions. Here, they've traded the contemporary chaos for a sleeping elegance, where simplicity reigns supreme. As the crows caw from their roosts, their calls ringing like an age-old alarm clock, it becomes evident that nature offers her own brand of punctuality. After all, who needs a digital reminder that breakfast awaits? Eager to greet the morning sun, the geisha rolls onto her side and stretches, feeling the familiar resilience of the tatami beneath her, a humble yet inviting embrace as she prepares to meet the day ahead. The briskness of early morning serves as a sharp reminder of tasks awaiting her. The communal basin, where water sits like a crystal pool, beckons for her daily washing ritual. The moment her fingertips touch the icy water, there's an invigorating shock, both startling and awakening, bringing clarity to perhaps a sleepy mind. It feels like an initiation rite, cold and refreshing, with every droplet an echo of brisk future encounters waiting just around the bend. As she splashes her face, shedding the remnants of dreams, she realizes that this dance with the elements is merely a prelude to the day's unfolding performance. Having washed away the veil of sleep, she turns toward the mirror and announces the arrival of tradition in a parade of color and application. The elaborate ritual of makeup comes next, an intricate layering ritual where each touch of white powder speaks of centuries gone by. Stirring the small porcelain container, the geisha breathes in the faint, nostalgic scent of cosmetics, a mild reminder of ancient history and, perhaps, a twinge of insecurity lurking just beneath the surface. The smooth base glides across her face, the transformation beginning subtly yet significantly, layers unfolding like stories long untold, each stroke imbuing life into her likeness while hinting at an identity both cherished and crafted. With each brush stroke, she layers not just color but also heritage, the crimson of her lips evoking the vibrancy of a blooming cherry tree, the meticulous detailing of her eyebrows arching into the unmistakable elegance reminiscent of the landscape itself. There's a certain absurdity in seeking perfection to meet the expectations of others, yet, thereby, men and women perceive beauty, undoubtedly stifling within the confines of societal ideals. And as she finishes, she can't help but smile at the contrast between her intricate facade and the world beyond, where millions groggily stumble into their day without such adoration of appearance. The aroma in the air shifts as she joins her fellow geishas for breakfast, the sounds of sizzling griddles drawing them like moths to a flame. The kitchen hums with life, the crackling of fish on a hot surface plays symphonies of flavors waiting to awaken the senses. It resembles the aftermath of a summer's rain, earthy and fragrant, promising nourishment and strength. As her stomach grumbles softly, the overwhelming comfort of familiarity washes over her. This meal is not just sustenance but artistry, a feast prepared with love for both body and mind. Before her lies a traditional breakfast, a masterful display of simplicity, a plate adorned with steaming white rice, a delicate bowl cradling miso soup, and pickled vegetables glistening like miniature works of art. Each element is elevated, presenting a humble tribute to the beauty of imperfections found in nature. The meticulous presentation bears witness to the fact that food, like life itself, is but an assemblage of experiences layered atop one another. Looking down upon the spread, she can't help but muse that today's complaint about salad dressing and microwaved meals would ignite the envy of those in ages past. As they gather around, laughter dances through the air, harmonizing with every comforting bite. The geishas exchange stories, reliving the oddities and follies of yesterday, the warmth from the meal infusing them with a sense of camaraderie. They settle into a shared silence of savoring their food, each spoonful melting into tender memories, while betraying the essence of patience that permeates their lives, one evanescent moment at a time. And as breakfast comes to a gentle close, one of the geishas begins to prepare the tea, an artistry of boiling water and rolling leaves releasing a rich fragrance that envelops the space, bringing forth tranquility akin to a morning walk through a blossoming garden. Her hands move painstakingly over the tea set as if they were performing a sacred rite. Green tea, steeped just right, promises comfort while each gentle bubble of water is augmented by the soft sound of longing, a sound that mingles with the quiet, folds of life fluttering at the edge of their awareness. In this moment, the sweet ritual washes over them, the silence filled with meaning. It offers not just nourishment but a subtle meditation that reminds them of the impermanence of life, where every sip functions as a reconciliation with time, every breath a pause in an ongoing conversation with the cosmos. How beautifully remarkable it is to find solace in the very act of preparation, a lesson echoing long after the cups are emptied, where reflections gleam and shadows of self-awareness loom more prominently than ever. Yet even in such moments of warmth, one cannot ignore the peculiarities nestled within the confines of tradition. The dining experience, where everything is visually arranged with a critical eye for detail, conveys an exploration of quirky elegance. Each dish seems to scold excess and humble the self, an emotional reflection of the need for perfection couched in the absurdity of presentation. The balance of not just feeding the body, but nurturing the soul, serves as a gentle reminder of the oft-ignored emotional cries for validation encapsulated within the layers of expectations. After breakfast, a collection of chores awaits, their day taking on a ritualistic quality that ebbs and flows like the tide. The geishas rise, sweeping away the fragments of the meal, brushes gliding across tatami mats in perfect synchrony, a delicately orchestrated dance defined by mindfulness. Each stroke of the broom again becomes a practice in balance, their brushes meeting the floor with soft whispers, as if trying not to disturb the very essence of dawn. The meditative swish of straw bristles scrapes across the floor accompanied by an almost zen-like rhythm, a sound that ebbs into the quiet fabric of their surroundings. As they labor, discussions of the day rush through sacred spaces, where seasons met the shift of moods. The soft scraping becomes oddly comforting, much like the rhythm of life itself, the trials and tribulations of aspirations rendered perceptibly real as they lift their voices like gentle melodies, sharing experiences of yesterday and unveiling dreams for tomorrow. Interactions laden with humor and wisdom contrast with contemporary impatience, where a simpler time resembles a faint echo lost in today's mania. With a restful air now settling over the geisha house, Aiza turned to the delicate task of tending to their treasured kimonos. Each stitch and fold demands its due diligence, as they endeavor to preserve colorful tapestries woven from countless threads, akin to the intricate patterns of their own lives, fragile yet artistic, absolutely enchanting as they flow like ruffled petals against the backdrop of modernity. The fabric stretches luxuriously, respecting the craftsmanship as if the threads themselves bear witness to tales whispering of elegance, heritage, and forgotten dreams. Each piece of clothing delves deep into a world of legacy and identity, kimonos no longer just garments but layers of culture wrapped around every individual. They are cloaked in meaning, embodying sacrifices and successes across generations, histories embodied within silk, cotton, and extraordinary mastery. One wonders if threads could talk, what would they reveal about the lives they have cradled? Amidst these folds of fabric lies a deeper conversation, the intricate dynamics of names and identities. The whispers of their assigned monikers carry weight, where every syllable resonates with the responsibilities of beauty and grace, ensconcing a world of symbols wrapped in layers, akin to an intriguing mystery waiting to be unraveled. Just as onions yield complexities hidden beneath their skins, so too do the names echo the rich tapestry of their profession, laden with ancestral heritage. Hours drift steadily, the soft light of day shifting into a warm embrace of evening as the sun arcs across the sky. Teachings of posture and poise become part of their warm-up routine, practices refined in front of mirrors that seem more like confidants than reflections. The attempt to maintain an elegant stance, an embodiment of poise, becomes a performance in itself. Tension ripples through shoulders as they train, every flick of a wrist, every tilt of the head becomes part of a larger tapestry woven together in the quiet hum of life that surrounds them. As daylight gives way to darker hues, the geishas delightfully inhale the fragrances of night-blooming flowers. Their alluring scents transform the tea houses into whimsical sanctuaries where stories come alive after sunset. Each flower unfurling brings nuance to the air, a fragrant invitation merging with the anticipation of evening festivities. Choosing an outfit for tonight feels akin to choosing between the destinies of kingdoms, for every color, every pattern epitomizes messages of significance. A day wanes, one soft glimmer at a time, surrendering to the allure of twilight. As the sun tiptoes beyond the horizon, a fragrant embrace fills the air, courtesy of the night-blooming flowers that unfurl their petals as if to greet the moon. Indeed, the world of the geisha is a realm suspended between the quiet pulse of day and the vibrant rhythm of night, each transition steeped in ritual. Selecting an outfit becomes an exercise in both artistry and philosophy, an almost reverent contemplation. The fabrics hang like whispered promises, colorful patterns weaving narratives of culture, family, and identity, narratives that could rival the epics of even the most ambitious poets. Each kimono transcends mere clothing, it embodies a kaleidoscope of meanings and memories, much like the decisions made over the fate of an empire, or perhaps just the next cup of tea. With a tilt of the head and a furrow of the brow, a geisha might ponder, shall she choose the elegant grace of crimson against white, or perhaps the tranquil tale told through soft hues of green, ones that evoke cherry blossoms drifting like dreams through a spring breeze? Each decision feels laden with the weight of inheritance, the flickering candle of tradition casting both light and shadow upon steeping choices. As the evening beckons, the make-up ritual recommences, this time more elaborate, a sculptor preparing the face of a masterpiece. Light flickers from lanterns casting a gentle glow, illuminating the choice between subtlety and drama. There is a thick sense of anticipation in the air, akin to an artist unveiling a new creation to an eager audience. The rice powder feels cool against the skin, an ancient talisman that carries the scent of whispered expectations and old ambitions, a curious concoction reminiscent of a flower shop after the rain. Lips painted a vibrant red, eyes adorned with captivating intensity and sometimes a hint of mischief. The final touches add layers, not merely of color but of character, her essence sealed beneath the painted facade. These moments echo the anticipation of a child waiting for a story to unfold, the kind of story that might transport the listener to the realms beyond. But this tale finds beauty in the everyday madness of life. As she examines her reflection, there is a soft chuckle, perhaps at the absurdity of the expectations that cling to her like perfume too cloying in the humid summer air. The anticipation of the evening's events grows, filled with unspoken promises and veiled smiles. The flawless art of her lineage wraps itself around her like a silken embrace, a reminder of the roles she plays with grace and intricacy, entwined in a ritual as old as time. Emerging from the quiet sanctuary of her preparations, the geisha enters the world where night holds sway. The lanterns flicker like fragmented stars, illuminating the narrow pathways through her life, leading her to the tea houses, the bastions of tradition and elegance, where she becomes a vessel of art and history. There, conversations bubble with laughter, weaving tales of lives intertwined with joyous exuberance and constant competition. Yet beneath the charm lies the intrigue of the Meiji Restoration, a time when the very fabric of society was being rewoven. The clash of cultures rang like a note held just a heartbeat too long, reverberating against the quiet elegance of geisha culture. During this era, the veil of tradition hung delicately between the tension of modernity's relentless grip and heritage's hesitated embrace, a dance of sorts, as choreographed as any performance at a tea house. The impact of political change cracked the facade of serenity, creating fissures that seemed utterly incomprehensible in the sophisticated world of tea and laughter. Just as the scent of incense mingled with the aroma of sake, anxiety mingled with joy. The world opening up was intoxicatingly alluring, yet for geishas, each promised opportunity felt entangled with the whisper of loss, much like music fading amidst the laughter of merrymakers. Patrons came clad in the fluctuating fortunes of the time, their whims fears woven into the fabric of their choices. The delightful irony rests heavy in the air, understanding wealth and privilege while witnessing patronage wane as softly as autumn leaves falling in a gentle breeze. Amidst grand reforms devised by those seated comfortably in their polished settings, the struggles of the geisha, a world seemingly hidden behind painted faces, felt more visceral and delightful. Yet, as geishas took their strides into the arms of the night, their laughter served as both echo and performance. They wielded their cultural artistry like an ancient sword, both beautiful and deadly. Education was not merely an affair of schoolrooms but rather a rite of passage encompassing music, dance, poetry, and the myriad nuances of etiquette. Navigating social decorum became an exercise akin to learning the art of tightrope walking. One misstep might sink into oblivion rather than lead them higher into the heavens. Yet amid societal perceptions, the balance remained delightful in its absurdity. Revered simultaneously as entertainers and remnants of a bygone era, geishas became embodiments of culture, floating between admiration and criticism. Much like fleeting shadows flickering beneath the soft glow of lanterns, they dance between honor and consternation, as if life posed a grand question, one they were destined to answer gracefully. Fabled stories of famous geishas, such as Sayuki, emerged from these smoky tea-houses, etching names into the parchment of cultural memory. Ambition soared high amid whispered inkwells of regret, a bittersweet fragrance trailing in their wake like the aftermath of a storm. Their tales, captured like silk stretching between two fingers, encapsulated the complexities of striving for beauty, fame, and the unyielding grip of time. Transitioning from this historically vibrant tableau to the decline of traditional arts feels akin to watching a sunset, the colors, once lively, now fading into the shadows. Post-war changes began surfacing, reshaping the fate of geisha in ways almost metaphysical. The once vibrant socio-economic structure began to wither, the pieces lovingly sewn together now tangling into the thrumming discord of modernity. As jazz crept through open windows, silencing the delicate strains of shamisen-loving patrons, the beat of contemporary rhythm became a stark contrast to the soft cadences of life in tea-houses. With every soft clap and laughter that filled the air, a quiet lament seeped through the walls. Throughout history, art has dominated with passionate fervor. Now, the delicate threads connecting people to culture frayed under the relentless push of progress. Questioning the past left a lingering ache, as in endless fountains of change, the once lively music of seasonal festivities began to echo less frequently through the corridors. The warming embrace of nostalgia was met with more chilling emptiness, a palpable sadness woven through fists of disbelief. Funding for the traditional arts declined, leaving its once vibrant colors dulled and barely fluttering like forgotten flags amidst the storm. Healing from the gash left by modernity revealed the efforts made to revive these traditional forms, an ongoing dance that interwove nostalgia with urgency. The struggles of a society caught between remembrance and advancement evoked a curious consistency. Every day was a performance. However, some in the audience wondered if these performers had forgotten their verses amid late-night rehearsals in dimly lit rooms, the dreams of yesteryears tangled in their silks. The interlude of globalization offered a peculiar brand of comfort. Post-World War II, the world cracked open like a new blossom, an infusion of Western ideologies reminding traditional culture that change is as inevitable as the tides. Some geishas transformed, adapting from intimate artists into performers for tourists, transforming artistry into spectacle, a fusion of strategy and charm that felt simultaneously foreign and familiar. Yet, as the influx of curious eyes mingled with the scent of sake and fresh blossoms, the specter of cultural appropriation emerged, rearing its confused head. Observers pointed fingers, dissecting the layers like peeling an onion, layer by delicate layer, yet often missing the essence at the core. An awkward collective misunderstanding settled in the atmosphere, creating a curious blend of awe, reverence, and an unsettling sense of loss. How tragic it is, the laughter heard but devoid of nuance, transforming a culinary delicacy into an unrecognizable dish. By the dawn of the 2000s, the interest into authentic, cultural experiences surged, a resurgence that might have startled those who gazed upon this unexpected revival. Hidden stories beckoned, fascinating narratives emerging to recast gentle light upon the geisha's path, polishing once tarnished memories, coaxing them to awaken from their deep, culture-induced slumber. The rise of documentaries allowed a curated insight into the lives enmeshed in elegance, while Hollywood filmmakers, in their quest for dramatized splendor, laced shadows upon reality. The lines between what was genuine and what was an enchanting tale blurred, a swirling mix that would leave even a philosopher perplexed at the delicious absurdity of human nature. Classes focused on traditional arts are an unlikely buzz, a frenzy of eager minds, intent on reclaiming lost skills and forgotten whispers, an unexpected flower blooming through the concrete of modern existence. There, in the overlap of past secrets and whispered promises, lay a duality to the life of the geisha. Eager hands and hopeful hearts sought independence while having to navigate the maze that was their own allure of servitude. In retrospect, perhaps there was a peculiar comfort nestled within contradictions, much like the laughter of a child chasing dreams amidst the confines of reality. Festivals rose to the forefront, celebrating the beauty of tradition while inviting the curious to step into a realm once held close to hearts. From the city streets of Kyoto, the sounds of a festival began to weave their way into the air. There, amid the fragrant blossoms, laughter danced between the patter of wooden sandals upon cobblestones that breathed stories of history. Yet, as the warmth of the sun poured over stalls adorned with colorful paper lanterns, a palpable tension lurked within the ancient walls. The changing world of the Meiji Restoration and its impact on cultural practices were beginning to unfurl like the delicate petals of cherry blossoms. The year 1868 marked a breaking point, ushering in a wave of modernization that swept through the land like a brisk wind, ruffling the delicate fabrics of traditions held dear. One could imagine geishas, their exquisite kimonos rustling in the breeze, while the rhythmic flutter of their sleeves mirrored their fluttering hearts, caught in the turbulence of an identity in transition. The past, so intricately entwined with their lives, began to splinter in the face of new kingdom politics, promising enlightenment yet casting shadows upon their age-old practices. It was during this historical upheaval that geishas faced the uncertainty of their role, entertainers enveloped in artistry, but grappling with survival. The whispers within tea-houses became more pronounced, the air filled not just with the engaging strains of shamisen but with the stench of fear, the smell of anxiety mingling with the bittersweet scent of sake, pouring in a desperate attempt to cope with impending changes. The brightly colored parasols, once symbols of grace and femininity, now felt somewhat heavier, weighed down by the expectations of political shifts and emerging ideologies that threatened to alter their very existence. Amidst these new societal dynamics, the frantic chimes of economic shifts also began to resonate, carving a jagged path in the lives of geishas. With a keen eye on their patrons, they witnessed the decline of financial support, as businesses deemed excessive spending on ephemeral entertainment a luxury they could no longer afford. The irony hung like a forgotten scroll on the wall. The very patrons who once showered them with admiration now hesitated to part with coins that had become symbols of more significant burdens. The laughter which once echoed through rooms transformed into a delightful but distant memory, a reminder of wealth and the caprice of fortune. As the leaders of the Meiji Restoration looked upon grand reforms with the pride of imperial ambition, the daily lives of geishas felt like characters in a forgotten play, unable to recall their lines while the audience grew restless. A pressure cooker of noble intentions began to boil over, leaving the geishas to ponder the blurry lines dividing them from those who ruled. The play of uncertain fates unfolded, revealing the stark contrast between the refined elegance of government halls and the lowly corners of tea-houses, the actors lost in the narrative, much like petals lost upon the water's surface, swirling in confusion. Through it all, the role of geishas in society reshaped itself like a silken thread spun into an unexpected tapestry. They transcended their roles as mere entertainers, transforming into cultural icons, their lives intricately woven into the fabric of art and the art of survival itself. Within the cloistered ambience of bustling tea-houses and serene gardens, they laughed, an echo resonating off aged walls, mingling with the sighs of lost traditions held captive by the currents of time. In the shadows of their existence, an unwavering emphasis on education became paramount. Aspiring geishas, caught in a relentless whirlwind, pored over the nuances of the arts, how to sway gracefully, wield the shamisen with dexterity, and dance with the lightness of a feather. The pressure sifted down from above, the weight of expectations compounded by society's gaze, leaving the young aspiring geishas to navigate a labyrinth of hope, doubt, and beauty, balancing their educative pursuits with the inevitable emotional toll that awaited them. Among the kaleidoscope of perceptions that colored their work, the dichotomy was striking. In the eyes of some, they were revered as divine muses, live embodiments of elegance, while in the eyes of others, they languished, a mere footnote in the annals of society's expectations. The label of merely women felt like a shackle forged from fragile chains of perception. Yet, the geishas carried on, precariously skating along the thin line between admiration and disdain, where every bow was laced with a dusting of irony, a chuckle quietly whispered beneath expertly painted lips. As the unfolding tale of famous geishas, like Sayuki, reminded the world of their indelible impact, a bittersweet fragrance lingered. Each tale embodied ambition tinged with regret, an intoxicating perfume floating alongside the fragrant tea that was ceremonially served, enriching the atmosphere with stories yet unspoken. Every strike of shamisen strings held suspended notes of both triumph and loss, a reminder that even as society advanced, the heartstrings often resonated to the cadence of simpler times. Yet, as the narrative shifted and roles evolved, the echoes of the post-war atmosphere also began to resonate, transforming societal landscapes. The delicate balance between traditional forms of expression and the encroachment of modern entertainment began to leave geishas cloaked in shadows, dancing to the fading tunes of their own symphony. The laughter of patrons, once buoyant and harmonious, seemed to fade into the backdrop of colorful jazz and lively banter that took over the low-lit corners of bars. Patronage waned, as choices became abundant, drown a fast-paced world laced with electric glamour. The soft strum of shamisen dulled beneath the weight of saxophones, an unwelcomed shift felt like thunder rolling in for a summer storm, ominous and unexpected. The beautiful, expressive art of geishas stood precariously against a tide of modernization that promised excitement, leaving behind only flickering silhouettes of an era that seemed to vanish into the mist. Yet, amidst the swirling chaos of advancement, whispers of revival began to permeate the air. A dance of traditionalism and modernity emerged, a frayed fabric struggling to be rewoven but finding a way to stand strong against the tide. Moments of reflection and earnest conversation skated upon time-worn paths, providing a chance for renewal of arts that once thrived and shaped communities. The irony hung thick in the air, the attempts to reclaim lost traditions resembled a surreal ballet, each step graceful yet awkward, as a yawning gap separated beloved notions of yore from contemporary existential realities. As we stroll into the heart of the decade, the influence of globalization wrapped around the artifacts of culture like an extensive tapestry, a clash of ideologies unfolded, resulting in thick walls of misunderstanding, mere shadows on a much grander stage. The infusion of Western ideals kissed the edges of elegance, transforming traditional practices into splendid yet misunderstood performances. This cultural cocktail conjured an odd blend, the sweet scent of curiosity smothered beneath the unmistakable aroma of cultural appropriation, a brew that left many to ponder the true essence of what it meant to be a geisha. The charm and mastery that had once dictated dance turned into grand performances designed more for eager cameras than for the intimacy of sacred spaces. While geishas discovered themselves dancing under the spotlight, oscillating between roles from intimate confidantes to grand performers, they found their spirits momentarily kindled, a flicker of warmth glimmering against the backdrop of an expanding world. The graceful movements now captured in fleeting frames promised admiration but came at the cost of authenticity, an unexpected trade-off reminiscent of a cherished recipe altered to appease discerning palates far removed from their origin. In the fog of this artistic renaissance, a certain irony emerged, like a glimmer of leftover fabric popping through the seams. The Western gaze sought to construct new definitions of the geisha, a culinary delight that had somehow lost its essence in translation. The reinterpretation of tradition overshadowed the tale of resilience that defined their lives, a delicate interplay where the canvas turned into a caricature, and identities shifted like sandcastles washed away by modernity's relentless tide. Yet, as the curtain began to close on the 2000s, even amidst the sea of confusion and disparity, a brighter flicker emerged. An increased interest into authentic cultural experiences prompted a quaint echo from deeper within the stories of geishas, illuminating their paths with renewed hope. Propelled by nostalgia lingering over cups of ceremonial tea, the allure of history came alive, inviting many to chase the shadows of the past with open hearts, attempting to breathe life back into stories long silenced. Documentaries unveiled layers of reality, stirring awareness in gentle undertones, while Hollywood's dramatized interpretations, though glorious on the surface, planted seeds of critique, sowing deeper questions about the blurred lines between truth and fiction. The surge of interest in traditional arts became a familiar rhythm in a world spiraling forward. People returned, eager to grasp the ephemeral moments and delicate intricacies buried deep. Yet, in this drift towards revival and reclamation, the duality of a geisha's life pulsed vibrantly, like a heartbeat echoing through the long corridors of history where dreams, servitude, and allure intersected. In this peculiar dance, the struggle for independence echoed with the fundamental paradox of survival. Young trainees, under the weight of their aspirations, learned the art of navigating physical and emotional landscapes, a survivor's guide illuminated in the flickering light of candles, their soft glow contrasting the solid darkness that loomed. As the dawn of new cultural practices emerged, festivals began to unveil their significance once again. Grounded in tradition yet echoing a contemporary spirit would drift alongside glances traded at glimmering lantern-lit events. The interplay of vibrant colors and rich aromas created an inviting tapestry for eager souls. The natural rhythm of life in the tea houses often involved geishas balancing their roles as entertainers while navigating the complex social fabric that anchored them within, like a delicate spider web spun meticulously by age-old hands. The sound of laughter cascaded through shoji screens, where the flickering candles cast playful shadows that danced in time with the performances, each note a reminder of their skillful precision and talent. Yet amid this laughter lay a deeper story, one steeped in cultural significance, an echo of a past continually vying for appreciation. Entertainers have always been more than merrymakers, they are often the observers, the custodians of stories, layered not just in silk but in intricate human experience woven over lifetimes. Each geisha, adorned in vibrant kimono, carried with her the dedication to an art form that demanded not only the beauty of her attire but also the sharpness of her wit. The subtle details of her conversations, imbued with a rich tapestry of traditional stories, had the power to bridge generations. It was here that the true heart of the geisha found its pulse, wrapping narratives of love, loss, and cultural transitions within graceful gestures. Their schooling, intense and unforgiving, cultivated not only the grace of movement but also the sharp intellect that allowed for an effortless back and forth of repartee. Often, a geisha would be expected to converse intelligently on various topics, be it the changing seasons, fine poetry, or mundane joys, all while maintaining a poised facade hiding myriad emotions bubbling under the surface. Their laughter would tease the air, echoing like distant chimes, all while wrapped in the sweet perfume of cherry blossoms and incense, a juxtaposition of the fragrant joys and the heavy expectations that enveloped them. Yet, there existed a fine line drawn by society. The beauty of the geisha persona was often snared by the complexities of public perception. Revered for their artistry, they were nonetheless also regarded with a tinge of skepticism, women who danced within the confines defined by society, often needing to navigate the delicate boundaries of self-assertion and subservience. The irony. As they flourished in their roles, crafting their identities through artistry, society layered its expectations like the heavy folds of a kimono. Famous geishas like Sayuki, whose name echoed through tea houses and whispers of patrons, became symbols of cunning and poise. Her story, gracefully unfolding over cups of sake, offers a glimpse into the lives of those who straddled the line between reverence and ridicule, creating an art form that became a reflection of the society that produced it. The depth of their struggles, captured in subtle facial expressions and melodic tones, revealed a bittersweet irony, a collective ambition intertwined with societal constraints. As conversations wove through the air, patrons, often adorned in their own intricate attire, would lean in closer, drawn not only to the visual beauty of the geishas but to the shimmering depths of their insight. The contrast was almost arresting, laughter and sobering truths punctuating evenings filled with vibrant banter. Now and then, one would catch subtle hints of sadness hidden between playful exchanges, a fleeting brush with vulnerability that would echo in quiet corners of the tea house, lingering long after the joviality subsided. While some lingered at the margins, observing with glazed eyes, others inhabited fully the experience offered, investing their emotions and themselves into the interactions. Yet, the joy was challenged by the understanding that for the geishas, every performance was but a transient moment in an ambiguous timeline of history, a continual play of art interlaced with survival. Each brush of paint and stroke of fan told stories craving engagement, reflecting a delicate balance of human interaction, often anchored by unspoken rules that held societies together and left them hovering precariously at the edge. Toward the end of the day, when the sun dipped behind the skyline, oil lamps flickered to life, casting ethereal spells through the latticework, almost like whispers of ancient spirits encouraging the unfolding of stories anew. Perhaps, beneath the layered grandeur of cosmetics and the intentionality of their dance, there lay an awareness of fleeting ambitions, the ever-present tick of time creating shadows no amount of powdered white could disguise. With the passing years and societal shifts, geopolitics and innovations marched forward, European influences crept quietly into Japan's social structures, leaving echoes that reshaped traditions. The essence of the geisha was no longer just a representation of art but also a marker caught up in the tumultuous waves of modernization that exercised a formidable grip, erasing the idyllic serenity of earlier days. Despite this ominous evolution, the confluence of their history, culture, and skill ensured that the geisha would remain pivotal, transcending rough edges in maintaining essential cultural ties. In this modern landscape of uncertainty, where tradition sometimes came face to face with the encroaching modern world, their role subtly shifted. They transitioned from intimate entertainers to performers, navigating an increasingly commodified and exposed environment. In this curious dance, the once sacred bond transformed, becoming a living tableau where the spirits of age-old customs brushed against the flashy specter of new performance art. The convergence of identities left an indelible mark, where spirit met spectacle, a delicate transformation that required immense adaptability. As geishas adapted to an influx of curious tourists, the experience they offered began to resemble a spirited masquerade at times, laced with the charm of cultural exchange yet tinged with the intrigues of misunderstanding. Within these spaces, a delicate tapestry emerged, showcasing the beauty of an evolving performance where laughter, though shared, sometimes echoed hollowly. The once sacred whisper of tradition now carried with it the faint odor of appropriation, where historical significance became submerged under the weight of a curious gaze drifting up from the west. Yet interwoven in the intrigue and complexities lay an undeniable charm. The world continued to buzz around them, the simplicity of their art form, now entangled with layers of interpretation, embodied a sweet irony. Audiences would gather, not just to witness the performances but to engage their senses with that which was elusive yet intoxicating. Within this curious blend of laughter and intimate conversation was the essence of what had long defined the role of a geisha, a life fueled by artistry and an ever-watchful eye on society's changing landscape. As the world turned to modern comforts, we find ourselves pausing to reflect on those evenings spent encased in the aroma of grilled fish and cherry blossoms, adorned in layers of silk, moving with a grace crafted through years of dedication. The light-hearted observations that coat the surface of their tales remind us that how they navigated their world, steeped in the folds of a kimono, displays a kind of resilience in the face of challenging tides. Now, as we gently descend into the next chapter of their story, we soften into the realization that, for every nuanced motion that filled their narratives, there is an enduring seat at the table of history where laughter mingles with remorse, and artistry dances quietly with the complexities of survival. And softer still on the edges of this story, we hold the echoes of modern comforts that cradle us with gratitude for indoor plumbing, soft beds, and the luxury of choice, a thoughtful embrace of life's absurdities where sleep may beckon softly, reminding us of our own inadvertent journeys into history. The decline of traditional arts unfolded like an ephemeral blossom fading in the winter chill. Post-war shifts muscle their way into modern society, dislodging the established norms within the spheres of entertainment. Geishas, once the embodiment of elegance and artistry, began to feel the tremors of a world evolving around them, leaving the delicate foundation of their lives trembling under the weight of changing tastes. Here, the sound of jazz began to seep into tea houses, drowning out the melancholic strains of the shamisen that once wove through the air like a whispering breeze. To encapsulate the stories of these women was, in itself, a challenge as insurmountable as navigating the intricacies of a well-stitched kimono. With neighborhoods buzzing with the post-war remnants of promise and prosperity, the call of the geisha faded to the background, hushed by the exuberance of emerging entertainment forms. Western influences wrapped their arms around popular culture like an overwhelming embrace, cramming the subtle nuances of the ancient art form into the crevices of a bustling modernity. These women kissed the shadows of fading traditions with a soft touch, even as the vibrant palettes of their kimonos began to pall. The once lively conversations around the tables of tea houses grew quieter, turned stilted by the pangs of financial decline. With fewer patrons indulging in the soft fabrications of their artful offers, the world of geishas became a bittersweet echo amidst the clamors of change. There was a chrysalis of melancholy evident in each flutter of silk, each brushstroke of makeup applied before the gleaming mirror, which now served only to reflect the shadows of what once flourished. Amid the swirling currents, traditional arts found themselves slipping through fingers like grains of sand, fading into a memory, while the plates filled with tempura and tatami mat stirred only to the light shuffle of feet that nervously retreated into the corners of nostalgia. The sweet and savory aromas that accompanied the craft of tea preparation seemed anachronistic against the din of bolder entertainments. What once required the delicate skills of women who transformed the heart of the tea house became watered down into something easily digestible, thick with glamour, but starved of soul. Yet within the flurry of fading light stood those stubborn remnants of cultural beauty, as if determined to lift the veil of uncertainty that had been draped over their heritage. These were the halls where the echoes of laughter rang hollow but hopeful, an ambience of art intertwined with the shadow of survival. The delicate wail of the shamisen fought to resonate through the cacophony, a committed heartbeat struggling to outlast the pulse of modernity. What is there to fear, after all, when the whispers of tradition are eclipsed by raucous laughter and electrifying spectacles? The very lifeblood that ran through the veins of society was now flowing in a completely different direction, where the extravagant marvels of the post-war world occasionally drowned out the measured elegance that had ruled the day. In a world where economy dictated vibrance, the geisha's ability to weave humor couching despair became their quiet rebellion against the dissonance they faced, a tap dance to the tune of irritation wrapped in an exquisite kimono. As the sound of clinking coins faded into distant rumbles, beneath the shifting surface lay stories tumbling from the mouths of seasoned women bearing histories that could fill volumes. The aura of a drink-soaked atmosphere mingled with fractured dreams, as former patrons became distant memories etched in the tangy taste of leftover sake at the bottom of an empty cup. It was a precarious balance steeped in cultural loss where traditional crafts shivered in the presence of modern aesthetics, an uneasy partnership that often tipped over in a moment of whimsy. In contrast to the steady ascent of pop culture, the decline of geisha arts unfolded in ways reminiscent of a slighted lover. Once embraced and celebrated, now their artistry was increasingly understood through the lens of economics, each elegant crack in their painted facade revealing the stories of struggle beneath. Their lives often narrated their relationships with wealth, captured in both music and silence, punctuated by the restrained colors of their everyday existence, a silence overlapping with the nostalgia of a bygone era. The irony, of course, lay in how one could romantically regard a profession that oscillated between fantasy and reality, where appreciation danced precariously with criticism. With each elegant bow and exchanged word, geishas embodied the spirit of resilient survival, their existence framed against the backdrop of a society that hurried past. Was it comfortable? Certainly not. But such was life, tinged with the bittersweet, drawing parallels to modern concerns where authenticity often contorts under the pressure of performance, cracking and yet somehow remaining beautiful, like the fragile petals of a cherry blossom shimmering beneath a sudden gust of wind. As soft evening light ghosted through paper screens and dimmed the aching starkness of their reality, there flickered a flame of hope for the return of traditional artistry, a yearning for a revival as fragile as the silk threads woven carefully into the columns of fabric. Yet upon investigation, the fickle winds of societal change often tugged at these edges, whispering both possibility and uncertainty, swirling truths that sometimes felt like buried treasures unearthed and yet tarnished by time. So, as we drift through this reflection on the ebb and flow of geisha culture amid financial upheaval and rampant modernity, we find ourselves contemplating the life that dances between two worlds, the world of colorful kimonos and the shimmering lights of neon, a space where traditional artistry grapples with the allure of fleeting fashions. In this complexity lies not just despair but the essence of history itself, a verse of songs echoing the need for connection amidst turmoil and change. Perhaps it is comforting to remember that in the face of such tumult, we now have heating, soft beds that cradle us gently, and the splendid marvel of modern conveniences. When you drift into slumber tonight, remember there are no tea houses where a gentle voice hums softly to you, only the sweet embrace of your pillow, a luxury few centuries past would have marveled at with envy. The influx of Western ideologies post-World War II brought about a seismic shift that rippled through the fabric of Japanese society, particularly affecting the life of geishas. It was an intersection of clashing traditions, age-old customs meeting modern ideas with all the grace of a giraffe on roller skates. The whispered allure of geisha culture found itself competing with the myriad attractions of a world that was rapidly accelerating toward globalization, where Western cafes and live jazz bands began to fill the streets, drowning out the delicate notes of the shamisen that once serenaded the era tea houses. As the years progressed, cityscapes transformed, resembling bustling stratospheres of concrete and steel, where tourists mingled with locals amid neon lights, which practically flashed welcome in every language but the one steeped in the traditions of the past. While no one questioned the charm of sushi rolls served by a chef sporting a baseball cap, there was a simultaneous unraveling of historical identity, akin to fraying fabric that had once draped proudly around the bodies of geishas. Upon entering the realm of burgeoning tourism, it became increasingly common for visitors to encounter geishas not just in intimate settings, but at staged events, locking them into the role of performers, elaborately costumed creatures of the night, who seemed as if they had stepped straight from an encapsulated world. No longer was the charm found solely in the subtle gestures of chaste flirtation and hidden laughter behind ornate fans, but rather in the spotlight glaring down on their resplendent silk, overshadowed by the bright lenses of cameras eager to capture the moment, but perhaps losing the essence of it entirely. And therein lay the irony. The delicate balance of respect and commercialization wobbled as geishas became embroiled in the dynamics of tourism, often drowning beneath the weight of expectations that felt oddly similar to those faced by pop stars of an all-too-familiar kind. One could hardly scroll through social media without encountering stylized pictures, often taken at the expense of authenticity, invoking cultural appropriation, while the journey to find genuine connection splintered precariously with each snap of a shutter. Just as Japanese sake flows generously, so did stereotypical visions of geishas saturate popular culture in the West, a curious amalgamation resulting in countless films, articles, and documentaries that painted broad strokes over the nuanced intricacies of an art form stretching back centuries. Hollywood, with its penchant for drama, often crafted tales that tethered romance to an elusive beauty, wrapping it in layers of narrative that sometimes skewed toward fantasy, as though depicting not the reality of life as a geisha, but a fragrant echo of a dream, layered with a piquant palette of melodrama that bore little resemblance to the muted tones of everyday existence. Amidst the confusion, there was a burgeoning self-awareness within the world of the geisha, a recognition that adaptation had to occur, that the grandeur of traditional art must negotiate its relevance amid the incessant pulse of modernity. They became aware of their roles as cultural ambassadors, tasked with preserving the echoes of an art form that marched in tune with history, even as they donned modern attire for events, a balancing act worthy of a tightrope walker poised between tradition and the ever-present onslaught of change. As time unfolded, this integration of traditional art into the sphere of popular culture led to a resurgence of interest, not just from curious tourists, but from the very people whose cultural tapestry had begun to fray. Classes in traditional arts witnessed unexpected growth, fabric and ceremony inviting new eyes to observe the delicacies of a practice once rooted deeply in an atmosphere of exclusivity and privilege. In many ways, it resembled a stubborn bloom breakthrough in an otherwise harsh garden, emerging elements of tradition amidst the gravel of modern expectations. In hospitable cafes where tea was served with earnestness and affection, the soft laughter mingled with the clanking of porcelain cups and the distant sound of music, a serene backdrop that reminded all present of gentler times and the inner sanctum of those intimate gatherings once presided over solely by geishas. Patrons could recognize, now more than ever, that the art of the geisha was not only a remnant of a time past but a living, breathing entity, adapting, evolving, unraveling and reweaving itself in the quiet corners of evolving identities. Of course, we must not overlook the amusing absurdity of it all. Imagine modern-day geishas, fielding questions from tourists with the same fervor that a barista might receive when asked for their favorite roasting method. "Do you still use those beautiful fans?" one might ask, as another inquires earnestly about what sort of oil they use to maintain such classic hairstyles. A wry smile would likely cross a geisha's painted lips, knowing full well that she might as well be discussing the merits of bubble tea against traditional Japanese tea, an absurd mingling of worlds colliding in the most unexpected ways. Yet amid this whirl of newfound interest, the specter of cultural appropriation lingered like the scent of cloying perfume on a warm evening, an insistent reminder that the line between curiosity and invasion is perilously thin. Still, the conversation about the life of a geisha sparked fervent dialogue, a reversing of roles where the captivated poured forth their tales against the backdrop of an undercurrent of nuance that belied the more raucous interpretations. As the West sought understanding, they met with nuanced complexities and rich heritage, much like savoring fine wine after years of a steady diet of Chardonnay. In this delicate dance, the shifts from one era to another would serve as both a narrative thread and a reminder, a testament to the resilience of tradition. Just as decorative kimonos were fashioned to blend with the seasons, embodying a quiet strength amid vulnerability, the world around geishas began to transform in a manner that, while unnervingly swift, offered a buoyant hope that artistry would continue to endure, shape-shifting like a silver shadow across generations. So, as the evening light faded to yield the darkness gently cradling the silhouettes of tea houses, one could find solace in the knowledge that while the present may echo jarring modern interests, the heart of the geisha remains resolute, a shimmering tapestry woven over centuries, where legacy and innovation dare interlace and dance, even if it's awkwardly, under the glow of neon signs. Tomorrow, when you sip that carefully crafted cup of coffee while scrolling through pastimes chronicled on your shiny device, remember that those who once walked the intricate path of geisha life did so with a resilience often hard to fathom, their stories echoing not just in the flicker of candlelight, but in every quiet moment you encounter. You may drift into the gentle embrace of sleep, comforted to know you reside in a world where at least the coffee isn't served cold and dignity, mostly, remains intact. The allure of the 2000s bore witness to a rising curiosity regarding authenticity, particularly in relation to the geishas and their art, a yearning almost romantic in its sincerity, yet muddled by the complexities of modern interpretation. People sought connections to centuries past, a visceral desire wrapped around the delicate threads of tradition, where every stitch told a story, each note of the shamisen held a secret belonging to an age not entirely lost but often mislaid. In the shadows of this new interest, the echoing sounds of history created a backdrop laced with irony. Documentaries began to flourish, casting a wide net over the geisha experience, trying to capture the essence of a culture that was hardly as straightforward as the plum blossoms that mark the season. Cameras followed geishas through their routines, inhaling the mists rising from freshly brewed tea, yet failing to encapsulate the quiet resolve that grounded them daily in a world growing uncomfortably loud. Every twist of the camera lens revealed layers that shifted like the creases in a beautifully crafted kimono, stories that danced delicately beneath the surface and often encapsulated the bittersweet nature of their existence. With the allure of Hollywood, glamour couched in the mist of ink and light, came even greater fascination, but notoriously, it often fell into the realm of dramatization. The romanticized narratives painted over the intricacies stripped them of the mundane, the exhausting reality of diligent practice and meticulous artistry. Lurid tales of courtesans, cloaked in the garb of cultural emblems, sometimes missed the exquisite nuances that shaped the lives of actual geishas. Often, a writer's pen would imbue their existence with fantastical notions, completely forgetting that the reality was imbued with hardship softened only by the laughter of patrons and the weight of their hopes. As interest surged, so too did the influx of workshops and classes devoted to traditional arts, from graceful dance to the nuances of tea preparation. Amid the aromatic traces of freshly whisked matcha, students strive to grasp these celebrated skills, despite lacking comprehension of the vast history interwoven through each movement and each sip. The fabric became as much a part of their hands as it was a vestige of the lives it once clothed, and the connection they forged through these artistic approaches echoed with laughter, frustration, and gentle corrections from well-versed teachings, their fingers sometimes adorned with the remnants of spilled pigment akin to paintbrushes carelessly discarded. Yet with such renewed interest, one could not avoid pondering the delicate balance between reverence and appropriation, one's desire to participate in a culture, often entangled with the unfortunate tendency for detachment from its roots. To be a romantic within this context equated to navigating a minefield of well-meaning intentions, where the path was marked with echoes of ignorance rather than understanding. Irony weaved itself into conversations where authenticity shared table space with commodification, echoing through busy tea houses now alive with the sound of modern tourists, laughter mingling with apologies for encroaching upon spaces once reserved for intimate exchanges. Within the distinction between the seekers of experience and the lived stories of all involved, a fascinating paradox emerged. What once served as intimate soirees where stories drifted like elongated shadows in candlelight turned into spectacles, provoking laughter in unexpected moments but also reminiscent sighs from seasoned geishas who dance between the lines of respect and jest, weaving anecdotes only the true insiders might appreciate. The ever-evolving persona of the geisha navigated drastically changing waters, their essence blending with exotic fragrances of freshly cut flowers against the sharp tang of foreign cuisine, all while painstakingly avoiding the pitiful helplessness of a lost identity. Through it all, the geishas continue to embody the complexity of thousand-year-old stories wrapped in the silk fabric of their kimonos, even as they faced the unfurling of modernity's demands. This duality reflected in the wide eyes of eager tourists who sometimes mistook folklore for fact, sat on richly lacquered tables dressed with seasonal blooms. It often rendered their intentions far less benign than revelry promised. And so, while they sought profound connections, the geishas remained aware of the translated dialogues that could tip into uncomfortable commodity. A world enveloped by the lumbering approach to history forced them to don caps of cultural educators, dispensing patience along with the tales of their past, the tender voice that existed still, quietly exhilarating yet deflated by observation. In this exploration, the vast network of geishas as living libraries oscillated between sprightly laughter echoing amidst the trees of the Gion and the serious acknowledgement of their past. Fleeting moments of recognition passed between patrons and performers alike, silent nods brought forth in understanding, often quick to slip back into forgotten time amidst the chaos of the present. So, as monochrome images in the heady reels of memory collided with the all-too-bright hues of modern interpretation, an order of absurdity emerged, one where everyone walked a tightrope of not quite knowing the history well enough to appreciate the artistry fully, but wishing nonetheless to engage in a poetic dance. As the sun began to set and evening shadows crept upon the tea-houses, there emerged a strong desire to delve into pasts shared with cradling laughter, perhaps what drew the audience to tear away the raffish veil brought forth by spectacle was, in fact, the innate longing to grasp at shadows, that whisper of what it meant to be intimately connected amidst a growing cacophony. Tomorrow as you wake, lift your mug of coffee and remember those ladies who once danced to serenade the fabric of time, smiting away the hum of distanced hearts. Perhaps, in their evolving story, there lies a lesson not just about resilience but the tender dance of daring to strike a chord of remembrance in a world that spins unremittingly forward, bearing nostalgia lightly yet resolutely. In light of such complexities, you might find it amusing to think of how you would fare away from the comforting embrace of electric light and hot showers, navigating an hour's worth of patience over a flickering candle while attempting to hold an awkward conversation about the weather without sounding utterly curious. But you remain lucky. The history of a geisha, both elaborate and mundane, reminds you that there are far simpler times to ponder than worrying about Wi-Fi signals amidst fascinating folklore. The excitement buzzing in the air melds seamlessly with the scent of incense wafting from the stalls, creating an olfactory tapestry that wraps itself around the Gion Matsuri, a festival firmly rooted in the annals of history. This celebrated event, which stretches back to the 9th century, originally began as a purification ritual for the city of Kyoto. Here, fortunes and fates were intertwined beneath the illuminating glow of paper lanterns, echoing the distance between ancient hopes and contemporary distractions. The vibrant colors of the floats, adorned with elaborate designs, unfurled like stories waiting to be told, as crowds gathered to witness this pageantry unfold before them, all while the chanting of prayers echoed faintly in the backdrop, a modern-day symphony of the past layered gently upon the present. As the preparations commenced, one could hear the clatter of wooden wheels rolling across cobblestones, a sound reminiscent of chariots racing towards victory. The rich aroma of festival foods filled the air, where sweet dango, skewered and glistening, mingled with the savory scent of yakitori grilling softly under the watchful eyes of the vendors, nostalgic flavors echoing traditions cherished through generations. The experience is not merely satiating the stomach, it's an invitation into a sensory explosion, plucking strands of memory from the hearts of those who dared to love the fleeting moments life had to offer. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, the activities unfurled like a finely pressed kimono. Traditional dances swept through the open courtyards, showcasing grace and elegance deeply ingrained in the souls of the performers. Each movement, a gentle nod to the ancestors who forged the path they tread upon, testifies to a history painted intricately with ambition, loss, and a unifying desire for beauty in a time of often unsettling change. A slow waltz of concerted grace accompanied these performances, as the sound of shamisen strings resonated like whispers of yesteryears cradled in warm embrace, where story and rhythm became one, a language spoken without words, yet understood by all in attendance. It is an event steeped in cultural significance, a fusion of spirituality and celebration, where ritual purity reigns supreme, yet the undercurrent evokes an understanding that this dance of balancing tradition and modernity is as delicate as the fine silk kimonos rustling like leaves in soft summer breezes. Each performance is laced with a palpable tension, as the gossamer threads of ritual are woven tightly with the laughter and pleasures of contemporary society, a dance that both honors what once was while tiptoeing cautiously into what could be. In a curious twist, one might ponder the juxtaposition of ancient rituals mingling with the vibrant clamor of consumerist festivities akin to the modern-day art fairs, for the tantalizing feel of cotton candy might be met with a sigh reminiscent of the sweet aroma of hot sake gracefully filling elegant teacups, a polite acknowledgement among history's pages of absurdity in the unfolding human experience. In a world so distant from its roots, appreciation might surface like a fleeting breeze, nudging souls to recognize the value hidden within simplicity, where traditional arts thrive amidst the often suffocating noise of a fast-paced world. Evenings such as this offer glimpses into a life where duty, art, and camaraderie fling open wide the doors of possibility, twirling between the dusty remnants of time and reaffirming their silent promises with each lilting note played. Over the years, the Gion Matsuri evolved into an array of festivities born from meticulous planning and availability of offerings that invite both locals and travelers alike to engage with the intricate dance of history in the present. The evening itself smells of anticipation, a new day, like an unopened letter, waits to be explored. Women dressed in elegant kimonos, with their hair adorned with the delicate touch of seasonal flowers, float gracefully through the crowds, embodying both tradition and modernity, a tangible thread connecting the elaborate lives of geishas with those of festival-goers. The soft rustle of obi sashes whispers tales of the past, weaving through the memories held within each intricately decorated knot. As festival nights unravel under the glance of the moon, the palpable excitement in the air reminds one of a child awaiting a sweeter fortune, brimming with joy. Yet amidst the laughter, there lurks an echo of the solemn purpose, a gentle reminder for those keen enough to listen that like each float parading along the streets, history too moves forward while simultaneously casting shadows of what one must never forget. In the lavish glow of lantern light, surrounded by the vibrant celebrations, the duality of existence becomes strikingly evident. The elegance of decades morphs into modern interpretations, quirky, lovely, absurd, much like how people find comfort in the wool sweaters of winter, which offer solace against the chill, yet may invoke an unstated wish for softer cashmere instead. It is this balance of tradition and evolution that stitches together laughter and longing, creating a tapestry through which heritage flows abundantly, even while hearts skip through insecurity. As the Gion Matsuri reminds us of how festivities can align with the core of identity, we feel an unexpected flicker of connection to those whose lives were dedicated to preserving it all. This intimate bond is one that stretches across time and space, much like tired feet enduring endless hours of standing upon the worn surfaces of tatami mats, yearning for the gentle embrace of modern footwear quite unlike the lightweight sandals of a geisha's youthful dance. After drifting through the vibrant alleys of nostalgia and contemporary existence, it is time to step back and tally upon the strength of ceremonial offerings, to understand the threads that bind the past with the present. The lavish displays of celebration serve not only as a reminder of the streets poured forth with colors but also as a languorous invitation to consider the interwoven fabric connecting tales of laughter with the often overlooked fragility of life itself. So, as you settle comfortably in your sleek and cozy sofa, appreciating its tailored support, think for a brief moment on the lives tirelessly entwined within these historical rituals. You, possessing the luxury of practical cushions and soft lamplight, can revel in the fancy of tradition while pondering the whimsical coalescence of cultures that spun the wheels of history around. It might amuse you to realize how you have every reason to cherish your modern insulation from life's absurdities, once removed from flickering lanterns and the enduring anticipation of shared moments, rather snugly tucked into your evening bliss. Examining the financial structure supporting geisha houses, we are drawn into an intricate world where the gentle clinking of coins weaves a soft melody, reminiscent of whispered secrets nestled behind closed doors. Within these remarkable establishments, financial transactions carry the weight of significance often left unspoken. Each coin, much like the characters in a dusty novel, plays its part in a larger narrative, echoing tales of ambition, artistry, and the subtleties of survival. In the hushed dimness of the tea house, where lanterns flicker gently above low wooden tables, the sounds of coins serenade the air, mingling with laughter and whispers, infusing the atmosphere with a sense of cosmic prescience. These geisha houses, sanctuaries adorned in crimson and gold, serve not only as places of entertainment but also as bastions of financial ingenuity, balancing artistry with commerce like a well-practiced tightrope walker oscillating above a chasm of uncertainty. The patrons that frequent such luxurious locales are, on one hand, busy layering extravagances atop luxury, while the geishas, clad in their delicate silks, are skilled in the art of pleasing, sophistication mingling seamlessly with the refreshing thrill of competition. To appreciate the nuances of their lives is to delve into the complex web of expectations that accompany the relationships formed between geishas and their patrons. In this rather peculiar market of beauty and grace, where flickers of talent may arise like fireflies illuminating a dusk-filled sky, we find a place where the boundaries of affection and commerce mingle like watercolors bleeding through a canvas. The ambience filled with the rich aromas of sake and the heavy scent of jasmine often tempers the stark realities of transactional interactions. The geisha, as an artist of performance, balances the scales of emotional engagement and the professional nuances of her work, a dance shadowed by the specter of financial obligation. But imagine the tension: who is truly master and who is merely servant? Informal hierarchies form amidst the soft laughter and the rolling sound of shamisen strings vibrating through the air, as the uncertainties of financial dependence knot within the sacred halls. As patrons engage in gambling with both money and mirth, they find themselves navigating the realm of patronage like explorers traversing uncharted waters, each decision steeped in the depth of desire, a game not unlike poker, where fortunes swing between murmurs and glances, and where every interaction is a bid, an investment in both entertainment and ephemeral companionship. Consider the balance that each geisha must strike, carefully crafting beauty and charm, always maintaining an air of mystery while counting the costs associated with their extravagant lifestyles. The cravings of patrons, absolute satisfaction, emerge with the day-to-day realities faced within these tea houses. Here, behind the elegant facades of artful laughter and graceful poise, there exists an economic foundation, carefully constructed over decades, echoing the soft footsteps of many who have tread this path before. Yet, as the sun sets, draping the world in shadows, we must reflect on how the balance of exchange holds relentless sway in these historical narratives. Tracing the delicate balance between patronage and the emotional investments in this time-worn marketplace, we begin to murmur appreciation for the resilience of these women. until one remembers how recently we've come to appreciate cheap entertainment at the swipe of a finger and the lazier comforts of our own living rooms, furnished without expectations and yet abundant in insulation against the chill of loneliness. A clear distinction emerges. While the geisha's performance allows for mere moments of enchantment, we find solace in the sprawling landscapes of high-speed internet and streaming services, marvelous empires built on entirely different sets of monetary exchange. One can imagine a geisha raising an eyebrow at the thought of someone seeking satisfaction in a binge-watching session from the safety of their couch, wondering how it may lack the subtle thrills of shared giggles hidden beneath elaborate hairstyles. The delicate balance of one's worth amidst shifting tides of financial stability rings eerily both familiar and foreign, a melodic reminiscence of days gone by. Now, blink back through time and witness the plots unfolding beneath layers of embroidered silk. The beautifully adorned balances between laughter and monetary glue form a veritable timeline tracing back to eras amalgamated under the banners of perseverance and struggle. Transitioning from mundane matters of finances to the ethereal realms of artistic expression, we delve into the rich tapestry painted by illustrious artists and poets, gently observing the portrayal of geishas within traditional art forms. The allure shines brightly, with brush strokes capturing not merely the vibrant colors of kimonos but also the inner workings of the emotional spectrum that often substantiates such imagery. One can almost visualize the paint mingling perfunctorily with the smells of lacquer as artists strove, perhaps quite heroically, to convey a sense of depth that their own interactions lacked. Avoiding mere caricature for raw, honest beauty, each turn of the brush reflects a longing for the unattainable. The work of craftsmen gone by resonates within their art, creating vivid repositories of fleeting moments, imbued with a sense of nostalgia that maintains its delicate grip even through the ages. Indeed, one could say that the geisha, with her poised elegance and mysterious flames of charisma, has served as a focal point of reverence, and at times, ridicule, leading artists to treat her as a muse and enigma, imbuing her very existence with a duality that speaks to both the common man and societal elites. Beauty intertwines with tragedy as easily as the cherry blossoms drift from branches in springtime, a visual manifestation of life's ephemeral nature, forever captured in time as if to mock our human desire for permanence. Let us pause to reflect on the artistic significance of the geisha's glorious attire, where each kimono unfurls like a delicate scroll, narrating stories woven in centuries past, stories alive with silken textures, vibrant hues, and the unmistakable scent of history. As fabric shimmies against itself, it cradles whispers of culture and tradition, tales of sacrifice and serenity, creating embroidery more intricate than any afternoon gossip shared over cups of green tea. Stitch by stitch, the labor of love comes into view, demanding attention. It speaks not only of beauty but of the respect for craftsmanship, carrying the weight of countless hands that shaped it into what we now observe from galleries and market stalls alike. An artist draping an idealized figure in a canvas suddenly invites us to reflect, with the hesitancy of one budging into intimacy. What becomes clear is the contrast, for example, to modern expressions of art on the sleek, JPEG-filled screens populating our lives, the simplicity of a swipe versus the labor of love reflected in each silk thread. Perhaps the only thing more unusual than their stark differences is how each calls to exercise our impracticalities and desires. Through the writings of poets and the expressions of painters, historical images of geishas emerge with a poignant irony, capturing the blend of beauty and tragedy. Sculptors twist shapes from clay, their hands dancing through time, yet even as they mold, there lies within an undertone of melancholy that calls into question whether smiles found within the realm of art are sincere or mere facades, preserved behind garments that transform ordinary women into cultural icons. The romanticized splendor often depicted is akin to layers of icing on a cake, sweet and inviting, but hiding within a potential pitfall of missed connections, glistening gloss devoid of richness in depth. As we journey through pages and canvases, vast landscapes of representation unfurl before us, mirroring a dialogue that smacks of humor, irony, and, quite often, keen observation, juxtaposing the trials of yesteryears with the conveniences we now hold dear. Here, in contrast to our overly curated feeds of social media, we find an external semblance of truth that still taps at the echo of our insecurities, a gentle reminder that beauty and art may thrive best in the spaces unencumbered by modern filters, where true craft flourishes unencumbered by fleeting trends. Shifting from the illustrious realms of artistry to a more esoteric aspect of life, we turn to the delicate interplay of rituals and religious practices nestled within the world of geishas, where spiritual beliefs have draped themselves like translucent wisps of silk around their lives. Enveloped within the traditions broken by the modern world, geishas often find solace in the whispers of Shinto deities, threading the delicate art of self-care through daily practices embedded deeply in rituals whose meanings may have shifted, yet whose essence remains undeniably potent. Shinto practices remind us that the sacred and the mundane often walk hand in hand. The act of washing hands before serving tea evokes a profound respect for the divine, as ceremonies unfold within the walls of tea houses. The air fills with the soft clamor of water mingling with warm incense, a fragrant embrace reverberating through time, infusing even the daily chore of tea preparation with a touch of the ethereal. Rituals unfold like petal-soft folds, revealing layers of humility interlaced with an intrinsic respect for the rituals of life and its impermanence. As seasonal festivals come and go, so too do the emotions interlaced within each encounter, bright with exuberance yet weighed down by equal measures of solemnity. The rites performed during cherry blossom celebrations shimmy with abandon, alive with laughter, reminiscent of childhood memories spent racing towards fleeting blossoms, while ripples of introspection roam through the collective consciousness. Each season infused not just the atmosphere with fragrant blooms, but echoed deeper questions fluttering just beneath the surface, an invitation to contemplate the extremes of joyful celebrations against the finger-wagging anxiety arising from those braced against times. The portrayal of geishas in traditional arts transcends mere depiction, inviting us into a rich tapestry where brush strokes resonate with the laughter of long-lost innocence and tears of unfulfilled dreams. Within ink and color, geishas emerge not just as entertainers, but as ethereal symbols of a culture both delicate and resilient. How curious it is to imagine that their lives, braided with beauty, often lead to portraits dripping with bittersweet irony, echoing the ever-lurking shadows beneath their elegant exteriors. Artists, from painters to poets, have savored the opportunity to capture their essence, the vibrancy that seems to pulse like the heartbeat of ancient Japan, eternally reaching for something just out of grasp. The soft rustle of silk kimonos contrasts against the backdrop of calligraphy as the brush glides over rice paper, each stroke a reminiscence, a whisper of the geisha's multifaceted existence. Famous works by artists like Kitogawa Utamaro and Utaga Kuneyoshi offer glimpses into a world suffused with muted elegance, punctuated by intricate details, floral motifs mirroring the ephemeral nature of beauty, the careful play of light and shadow hinting at the weight of expectation resting upon delicate shoulders. Each artwork serves as a window, a distillation of life itself, inviting its beholder to ponder both the glamour and gravity threaded through each exquisite detail. How sweet it is to think of the gentle fragrance of ink mingling with the soft whispers of nostalgia, transporting us back to an era where art was a vessel for stories steeped in tradition, enveloped in sacred tones. One cannot forget the melodies of shamisen under the blue porcelain light of lanterns illuminating the night, as time dances ever so slowly. The sound slips into the territory of the sacred, a haunting tune laced with the sorrow of all those forgotten. In this space, geishas are elevated to muses, embodying emotions too complex for words, swirling like cherry blossoms caught in a spring breeze. Such visual and literary representations serve not only as art forms but also as reflections upon society's attitudes toward women in those times. The dichotomy of existence, coupled with the external praise juxtaposed against societal disdain, gives rise to a paradox as puzzling as it is tragic. Poets and writers wove their words around these iconic figures, capturing their beauty while simultaneously encountering the disdain surrounding their choices. What must it be like to be cherubic, an exquisite flower yet forever confined within the ornate framing of someone else's whims? As cultures transformed and modernity encroached upon their world, geisha representation seemed to morph as well. Artists began to reflect contemporary perceptions, where romanticized myth entwined with disillusionment, merely an illusion of silk and shadows dancing across canvas. It was a perplexing and often comical scene. The laughter of modern beauty standards echoed through the halls of time, where the elegance of centuries past flirted awkwardly with the realities of a world awash in irony. How charmingly tragic it is that what is revered can just as quickly become ridiculed, perhaps just a reflection of the media portrayal. In this fabric of art and literature, we find solace in the discussion of the artistic significance of geisha costumes, embroidered with tales whose silences scream as powerfully as the colors gleamed within their threads. Each kimono tells its own story, where the texture of the fabric feels like a soft whisper against the skin, the silk wrapping around its wearer in a close embrace. Patterns typically drawn from nature, such as cranes representing longevity or peonies signifying wealth, double as both attire and armor, a shield against the gazes of society. Each piece is a private journal, where the inconsequential stitches carry the weight of secrets, aspirations, and dreams deferred, meant only for the wearer's eyes and those lucky enough to witness the unfolding story. And in the echoes of modern literature, the representation of geishas takes an unexpected turn. Humor and sarcasm dance their way into tales of yore, capturing a myriad of emotions. New authors occasionally find themselves grappling with the dichotomy of desire and obligation, continuously balancing the attraction of the geisha persona against the stark reality of their lives. Enter the modern reader, curious yet detached, craving the allure while naively ignorant of the intricacies woven among such narratives. It appears that the contemporary fictional world offers not just insight, but also an amusing critique of how far reality can veer from the stories we tell ourselves. A quilt of disjointed experiences where geishas find themselves endowed with agency, even whilst living within parameters crafted by others. Yet, as we plunge deeper into this depiction, the doorway opens to consider how taste and aesthetics have shifted over time. The dissected view of past elegance unfurls as silly stereotypes, interconnected with a modern understanding of cultural expectations, fluffiness often overshot by genuine appreciation. How alarmingly fascinating the edges of these stereotypes fray into something morbidly comical. It's as if the ancient artistry of geisha life has been misinterpreted through a kaleidoscope that distorts color and clarity in equal measure. The satin sheen of reality becomes marred by shiny misunderstandings, causing us to pause and chuckle at the absurdity of attempting to encapsulate something as expansive as life within trivialities. Shifting gears, we ponder the evolving representation of geishas, juxtaposing the past and present. Here lies the dance of tradition versus modernity, a tango that often gets tangled, much like an overzealous shoelace caught underfoot. The scrutiny of outsiders and the quest for authenticity clash with the necessary adaptation sparked by changing times. It garners reflection as we wander through perceptions often sculpted by Hollywood dramas, painted with exaggerated strokes that deviate from their forebears. What delightful farce to think that the media's vision can transform contemplation into spectacle. The great circle of cultural upheaval continues. Thus, we arrive at this moment of strange dissonance, where the legacy of the geisha spins in circles, balancing on the fine line drawn between reverence and ridiculing. current reflections shed light on a world unjustly simplified, the inhabitants translucent, occasionally reduced to mere caricatures. Yet, in this modern vein, one can't help but find the touch of elegance thriving still. The symbols persist even through modern travails. So, let us gently draw the curtain on these explorations of representation, a realm where artistry and philosophy collide with the realities of societal expectations. Through each poem, each brushstroke, we unearth a complex narrative entwined in valor and commercialism, perhaps leaving us to chuckle softly at the absurdity of our interpretations. While the geisha may wade through the murky waters of modern comprehension, one must smile at the thought that those alluring whispers of grace and beauty persist, even as time continues to flow, carrying both histories and whims in its wake. As the tapestries of the past weave themselves into the present, we find comfort in knowing that art has the power to endure in ways we can scarcely comprehend. When reflecting upon our own comforts, it is worth recognizing that we now dwell in spaces embellished with carpet, robust furniture, and walls that prevent the blustery winds from affecting our slumber. So rest assured, dear listener, the world has evolved, and those elegant whispers from the past, now carried in the folds of modernity, are no longer subject to the whims of fate and perspective, but rather, they drift gently as soft echoes, allowing for quiet reflections while we embrace our contemporary lives. When you fall asleep tonight, remember that while elegance may shape itself over time, you at least have the luxury of Netflix and the freedom of indoor plumbing. Truly, that makes for a happier ending than found in many of history's tales. The delicate rituals of geisha life infuse the air with a sense of tranquility, reflecting the deep influences of Shinto beliefs. In tea houses where quiet murmurings and soft laughter echo, the scents of incense intertwine with the earthiness of fresh tatami, creating an otherworldly atmosphere that transcends time. Each breath taken within those walls carries remnants of ancient prayers, reverberating softly in the corners where shadows gather, magnetized by the flicker of candlelight. As part of their training, geishas practice the sacred art of tea service, a ceremony adorned with age-old customs. The washing of hands before serving becomes an unspoken acknowledgement of purity, an honoring of the act itself, where water feels cold yet serene against the skin, much like the morning dew brushing against blossoming petals in spring. Each sip shared across lacquered tables fosters a connection deeper than mere commerce, binding souls through the ephemeral nature of delight. The careful placement of tea utensils mimics the grace required to navigate a world steeped in both tradition and expectation. Seasonal festivals fill the calendar with splashes of color and exuberance, every celebration a return to both individual and collective roots. The cherry blossoms bloom heralded, their sweet scent enticing and bittersweet, giving rise to joy and reflection. Clad in vibrant kimonos, geishas become the embodiment of these spirits, moving gracefully as living art in a world that often forgets beauty can breathe alongside routine. Their dances punctuate the air, creating harmonious melodies enhanced by soft laughter, a cherry blossom petal's descent caught mid-air, forever suspended in time. Amidst the jubilation, symbols of devotion linger long after the last dances have been performed, echoing within the hearts of both audience and performers alike. The intricacies of their lives also come paired with an understanding of labor's weight. Every performance demands the heart, the soul, and a rich tapestry of preparation. Practicing daily not only elevates their craft but treks them along a path littered with expectations. The layers of silk draping elegantly, hugging their forms, have history stitched within. Their fabrics have been passed down, whispering tales of artistry entwined with personal sacrifice. The fragrances of fabric softeners long gone are replaced by the ephemeral scent of jasmine talcum powder, ghostly remnants buried within the folds of attire. While daylight moments may seem typical, within the confines of the tea house, moments are tinged with anticipation, the social hierarchy palpable. The subtle gestures exchanged, gentle nods, the careful tilting of heads, develop an unspoken language beyond mere words. Here, interactions blossom under the moon's watchful eye, with shadows mingling to create an atmosphere where vulnerability meets enchantment. As much as they are kept in the service of their patrons, geishas create spaces for affection and camaraderie, navigating the tightrope of duty and artful disguise with the elegance of birds soaring through misty skies. Beneath layers painted bright with vibrant inked history, there's an ambiguity to their way of life, the tug of societal obligations weaving through artistic expression. Take, for example, the strange personal philosophies harbored by many geishas, molded by their experiences. Simultaneously, they remain rooted in their form yet launched towards independence. Through the sacred practices that stitch together every chore, every interaction, the act of creating beauty becomes a symphony of dissonance. An art that discusses formality gives rise to camaraderie mixed with melancholic understanding, much like old friends finding humor over life's absurdities. So, we unwind deeper into the subtleties, where the shared rituals echo faintly with histories that could fill volumes. Perhaps in the delicate moans of wooden floors, reserved for those who tread lightly, lies the potential for introspection, an invitation to question what it means to live a life balanced on the edge of expectation and rebellion, all the while encapsulated in the cohesion of artistry. In those reflective moments of solitude, the warm tea in hand, perhaps one might contemplate how such reflections relate to the simplicity found outside the constraints of formality. In this quiet world, spirituality serves as a lodestar, intertwined within the essence of their daily acts. The preparation of meals is laced with ceremonial intent. Even the slicing of vegetables possesses a rhythm akin to prayer, an acknowledgement of gratitude for what has been provided. Here is a melody of reverence, stirring, yet calming, as if whispering about the transient nature of existence, evoking thoughts that make one ponder the origins of taste and the artistry found within its presentation. As we drift toward the horizon of understanding spirituality's role in the lives of geishas, we may find parallels threading our contemporary lives, the ways in which we search for purpose amidst the chaos of modern existence. The desire for calm reflects in every soul seeking both fulfillment and connection, mirroring the offerings of tea extended to eager guests. With each shared sip, a moment of tranquility becomes a collective embrace, a gentle reminder of the beauty found in the act of simply being. Nostalgia lingers in our breaths as we acknowledge the quiet struggles between embracing tradition and the harsh realities of change, a staircase both ascended and descended, laden with an assortment of memories bursting forth like cherry blossoms. The experience of a geisha, drenched in the duality of artistry and daily labor, brings forth an empathy for each era, a past that cradles its stories close, clinging tightly amidst the ebb and flow of ever-changing tides. In reflection, we find echoes of our own lives, a shared camaraderie with those who came before, nestled within the annals of both pain and triumph. As we conjure these intricate modulations of life through the lens of spirituality, we may smile softly at life's absurdities, having only acknowledged that through centuries of exploration, we have marched toward the beauty hidden in the mundane, just as the geisha elegantly does, balancing the bitter and sweet in each encounter. And now, as you rest your head on the comforts of your bed, remember that your couch or pillow does not expect you to perform delicate dances nor recite poetry at the drop of a hat. You are free to merely exist. You need only to close your eyes and embrace the embrace of sleep, liberated by the absence of expectations. This leads us gently into the next realm, where daily interactions shimmer like starlight, ethereal and ephemeral, reminding us that behind every bustling affair, there lingers a world of intricacies waiting to be discovered. In the unspoken exchanges, every smile shared between geishas and patrons illuminates what it means to dance through life. It is not merely about steps taken, but the very essence, the fragile beauty that lies in every spark of interaction. With that thought, we tenderly approach the layers of connection experienced by geishas, a tapestry ever woven in the spirit of camaraderie and ritual, reflecting echoes within our own lives as we unwittingly navigate through our routines. The interactions between geishas and their patrons unfold like the petals of a carefully cultivated flower, layering softness and complexity over the backdrop of everyday existence. In the serene atmosphere of a tea house, laughter flows like fine sake, softening the sharp edges of life outside its walls. The rustle of silk kimonos swath the air, whispering tales of connection, expectation, and sometimes a good measure of veiled disappointment. Patrons return to their favorite geishas not just for companionship, but for that intangible connection, rooted in shared experiences, laughter echoing softly against the tatami mats, reverberating in a chorus of expectation and understanding. The delicate balance of emotion swaying within these interactions may seem simple, yet it is imbued with the weight of tradition and subtlety. A shared cup of tea, the careful arrangement of sweets, each action purposeful as if choreographed in an intricate dance, invites patrons into an atmosphere where they feel seen, appreciated, and perhaps even a little revered. This is no mere commerce, it becomes an exploration of the human condition, where laughter punctuates the air, seated alongside the ever-present undertones of yearning. In these moments, the weight of expectation settles in, like the sweet aroma of the seasonal sakura mochi being served. A patron may come seeking solace from the world, unwinding the struggles faced outside in the bustling streets of Kyoto. The geisha becomes both a balm and an entertainer, a figure skilled enough to engage in artful conversation while sensing the underlying emotion swirling beneath the surface like leaves caught in a gentle breeze. She holds the key, unlocking layers of vulnerability without touching upon the unspoken burdens that hide away in the depths of each heart. As charming as this symbiotic relationship might seem, reality often alters the perception just a fraction, tilting it further toward the absurd side of existence. Take, for example, the unwritten code of etiquette. The art of saying the right thing at the right moment requires precision bordering on madness. One stumbles and suddenly finds oneself knee-deep in an ocean of awkward silences. A misstep could lead to a reputation tarnished like a less-than-fresh piece of fish. In this world, even the simplest of conversations take on the flair of abstract art, open to interpretation and fraught with hidden meanings. The intricate ballet of social dynamics dances gracefully on this stage, where rejection and favor intertwine, creating a fine mesh of laughter suffixed with soft pangs of disappointment. The patrons, having navigated a landscape rife with their own desires, find solace in shared glances with the geishas. An unspoken agreement exists, binding their experiences together, allowing laughter to float in the air like little bubbles of joy amidst the somber gravity of expectation. The occasional awkward pause adds a dose of humor, where a simple miscommunication can rattle the vines of their budding connection faster than one can drink their green tea. Just as blooms in spring enjoy their fleeting moment under the sun before fading into the background, the camaraderie between geishas also ebbs and flows, drifting further into the tapestry of social structures woven throughout Kyoto. They gather at the end of long nights, weaving the day's events into vibrant stories, each sharing a camaraderie steeped in understanding, masked with fleeting competition. Like delicate flowers twisting in the air, they appreciate the ethos of goodwill and connection that binds them, even amidst the trivial rivalries that arise in the Garden of Spirits. Life, much like the season, is an intriguing paradox. These geishas may drape themselves in the most exquisite fabrics, charged with the weight of both history and artistry, yet they dwell within an intricate canvas of interpersonal drama. The camaraderie becomes a labyrinth in which they traverse, encountering whispers of envious glances while resting comfortably in the warmth of shared experience. In the shadows of this winding relationship lies a deeper understanding of what it means to build bonds in a world that often feels overpowering. Behind the facade of laughter and elegance, a deeper undercurrent flows, a connection to the ghosts of their training, the trials of performance, and the unmistakable weight of their cultural significance. As they interact with patrons, geishas trade laughter over okazuke, the nature of sustenance mingling with shared vibrations of lives lived on both sides of negotiation, reaffirming the essence of their roles. As our focus shifts to the realms of social positioning and connection, it is essential to acknowledge the complex undertones echoing between the lines, an emotional ballet finely nuanced under the rhythmic swirl of colorful kimonos. The laughter and camaraderie shared among the geisha and patrons serves as a fleeting reminder: we are all bound by shared experiences, navigating the choppy waters of life together, sometimes towards the more absurd shores of existence. Now let us gently weave into the ever-fragrant mysteries that encase the lives of geishas. Peering into the hidden layers of their daily routines unveils shadows of stories tucked away behind closed doors, each waiting patiently to be discovered and pondered over like a forgotten melody. We glimpse at the enigmatic face of the training process, a clandestine journey amidst glimmers of shared laughter, honorable challenges, and perhaps a few discreet glances of envy cast among peers cloaked in satin. There exists a realm of training that remains obscure, akin to a well-concealed ancient scroll, a secret waiting impatiently for the right moment to unfold. The hours of practice are steeped in tradition, cradled tightly like a piece of intricate origami, revealing layers of artistry perfected over time. From rigorous lessons in poise to hours spent with shamisen in hand amidst the quiet hum of anticipation, the path becomes paved with obstacles, each embodying fragments of struggle flavored with triumph. There are peculiar customs that arise like phantom specters, looming before their imminent performances. Superstitions, rich with absurdity, linger heavily in the air, each act performed with an unyielding reverence. A dancer, for instance, may twirl in a circle 3 times before stepping into the spotlight. Perhaps a sprinkle of salt is tossed over a shoulder before embarking on an evening filled with uncertainty. Such rituals invite the cosmos to join this delicate affair, creating a theatrical backdrop that intertwines both wonder and absurdity. Yet, for every whisper of intrigue, there are role models, figures who emerge like midnight blooms beneath the waxing moon, a few well-known names that become legends wrapped in the scents of jasmine and mystery. They embody the essence of what it means to be a geisha, encouraging conversations laden with reverence and playfulness. These historical footprints grace the narrative of geisha life, overshadowing uncertainties and allowing wisdom to shine through the opaque fabric of their existence. As we reflect on the grand tapestry of emotions woven through these interactions, it becomes evident that both the geisha and the patrons exist in a dynamic fueled by mutual, albeit complex, aspirations. The challenges emerging from societal expectations come hand in hand with a delicate beauty rooted in companionship, an artistic struggle shared, a tale spun together across the beautiful backdrop of life. In the end, as the echoes of connection hum softly in our ears, we find solace in recognizing that the complexities of life navigate between deep emotional connections and the light-hearted absurdities we encounter daily. So, while the weight of tradition holds a firm grip, remember that you are here, enveloped in your own soft surroundings, free from hesitation and the anxious sequence of performances that color the lives of those before you. As we transition toward the unusual lives lived in the upper echelons, adorned in silks and perfumed with the essence of wealth and privilege, we encounter a juxtaposition that can only be described as absurdity wrapped in opulence. Here we shall glimpse the golden age of luxury, where banquets flourish beneath the curves of rich, lacquered wood, and where the aroma of culinary delights mingles with whispers of unearned privilege. Such is the reality that separates the lives of the elite from their geisha counterparts, whose existences are modeled upon artistry and service, often crossing the paths of the affluent with a delicate dance sown in beauty and compromise. The distinction between the two worlds can truly baffle the mind, for while the geisha embodies artistry born from elements of sacrifice and tradition, the lives of the elite often feel bereft of meaning compared to the tapestry ringing loud with laughter found in tea houses. A comparison could be drawn, wherein the geisha's mastery of art and culture stands in sharp contrast to banquets heaped lavishly at the tables of lords and ladies, their grains bearing the weight of ornate plates and exquisitely preserved delicacies that rise like autumn clouds across the landscape of privilege. The tables themselves, draped in impossibly expensive textiles, resonate with the soft clinking of porcelain and silverware, a reminder of the commercial aura encasing their feasts, captured alongside thoughts of indulgence. In a world steeped in grandeur, a soft belch escapes the lips of an unsuspecting guest, illuminating an odd reality where the lineage of aristocracy collides with the intimate relationships forged in hushed tea-house corners. As dishes filled with delicacies unfurl around them, there remain no expectations that a geisha must twirl in servitude, balancing the weight of social obligation while elegantly swaying through conversations that could easily evoke snickers behind polished faces, or perhaps that's just a tad too upbeat for our refined audience. And so, as we reflect upon the delicate gauze of relationships intertwined between lives that seldom meet but exist within parallel universes, it becomes evident that the echoes of laughter linger in the cracks of grandeur, marking each moment in our assessment of individual worth. The life of a geisha, forever tied to an unbroken chain of artistry. The whispers of hidden stories flutter like autumn leaves caught in a gentle breeze, sweeping through the polished halls of tea-houses, where the air is thick with history and unspoken thoughts. It's in these quiet corners that geishas carve their lives amidst the delicate balance of tradition and expectation, stories that go beyond the surface of painted faces and highly stacked hairstyles. The training of a novice geisha, a shikomi, resembles something of a clandestine initiation, the kind that evokes both excitement and dread in equal measure. Early mornings begin amidst the haunting sound of crows, their morning calls a raucous chorus awakening the dreams of yet-to-be artisans. The smell of damp tatami mats mixed with steaming rice gives an unusual comfort, a sense of belonging before the day unveils itself, laden with new challenges. Dressed in plain garments, shikomi tread carefully into a cascade of responsibilities, the art of serving tea, the precise way to pour, delivering each cup with an air of grace reminiscent of a crane gliding across a tranquil pond. Each movement has purpose, practiced to the point of perfection, yet beneath those delicate gestures lies the bewilderment of a young woman caught in a whirlwind of tradition and the unyielding shackles of societal expectation. With no formal schooling, these young minds absorb lessons from the seasoned geishas surrounding them, much like sponges eagerly soaking up the tide of knowledge. Emotions bubble beneath the surface, blooming into competition and camaraderie. It's a curious entanglement, where admiration can swiftly morph into envy, the scent of ambition so potent it permeates every inch of their existence, mingling with the sweet aromas of cherry blossoms and the salty breeze from the sea. As the day fades into twilight, training takes on a different stress, an evening of performance looming like an uninvited shadow. The practice of okaya, preparing the tea house for guests, becomes an intimate ritual in itself. Shikomi deftly arrange silk cushions and gleaming utensils, ensuring that every detail is steeped in perfection. They know that, beneath the anticipating gaze of their superiors, the finest balance of beauty and simplicity must be attained. Yet, amid the laughter of fellow geishas, the cracks of doubt become ever visible. The whispers of inadequacy flicker just out of earshot, like distant echoes in an abandoned room. There exists a peculiar excitement blended with the terror of performing in front of patrons, a crowd that often wades in the depths of their expectations, perched on the edge of their own desires, waiting for an experience that transcends the ordinary. Before each performance, odd customs arise. Shikomi partake in rituals filled with superstitions, from pinching their cheeks to coax life into their skin, to repeating verses of sacred poetry, murmured softly as though chanting for good fortune. These habits sway between slightly absurd and essential, adding layers of mystique to the already enigmatic world of the geisha. After all, wards against the fickle nature of fortune become a form of convenience while navigating a career built on the whims of fate. Often, stories of the geisha's past weave their way through training, as those walking alongside the new novices share tales of legendary figures, women who may have graced the stage or enhanced the social fabric with their charm and artistry. The names Sayuki, Chiyo, and others whisper through the corridors as if conjuring the spirits of a bygone era, tales heavy with admiration yet hinting at the bittersweet weight of their experiences. These celebrated personas, while revered, also embody the complexity of sacrifices made under the spotlight, tensions born of artistry, love, and loss. Indeed, they become landmarks in a narrative that rivals the very foundations of Japan's rapidly evolving society. The geisha's legacy pulses through the veins of history, the lifeblood of culture. As scrolls filled with ink brush strokes depict the remarkable journeys of these women, forever engaged in an art form that mimics life itself. Within the soirees, luxurious banquets commence under glimmering lanterns and the soft glow of candlelight. Tables resplendent with lacquered dishes and porcelain, each shimmering like the dreams of a designer who longed for perfection. Yet here, in these gatherings, the sounds, the distant laughter, the clinking of wine glasses, and the occasional clearing of throats mix with the comforting yet lingering tension of social obligation. At the heart of it all, a geisha must remain unfaltering, maintaining her poise amid the frivolities surrounding her. As a moment of reflection might lead some to consider the juxtaposition of these exquisite evenings against the mundanities of day-to-day chores, one can't help but chuckle at the absurdity. The hushed beauty of evenings draped in silks and laughter sharpens the edge of every difficult task performed under the stream of sunlight. Folding laundry, scrubbing tea-house floors, and sewing delicate fabrics gain a different light when contrasted with resplendent attire and eloquent conversations, a world wrapped up in a singular performance, with each aspect of life becoming merely a stage. The small mysteries, then, echo ceaselessly, questionable habits of these beguiling women, the odd rituals they brought with them to the everyday could become for anyone not deeply entrenched in the art form, puzzling. It invites curious scrutiny, for within this recurring play of life lies a profound truth, the delicate duality between showing one's true self and mastering the illusion of an outward persona steeped only in allure, much like the artful strokes of a painter, a facade crafted to encourage a sense of comfort wrapped around an enigmatic core. As the evening stretches out, there's an unspeakable attachment formed with patrons who sit at the other side of the table, sipping sake while navigating playful jests and cultural intricacies. It's an unexplainable bond born from shared moments amidst the backdrop of laughter and a conscious effort to maintain the facade of grace. Within the silence that perches softly upon the edges of this world, laden with deep-seated yet fleeting connections, there exist meanings deeper than mundane exchanges, a confluence of shared experiences threading tendrils of emotional complexity. In the dim light, quiet friendships emerge, noisy camaraderie blossoming among women bonded by more than just their shared profession. Here blossom moments that, while often shrouded in the allure of performance, bear witness to comedic struggles only those familiar with the intricate dance of life can laugh openly about. They unwind at the end of the night, sipping warm tea infused with honey, sharing secret laughs as they unveil the layers of their own identities, stripping away the polished exteriors they mold for the world outside. Life as a geisha is thus a tapestry, a creation rich in color, where each thread represents a moment of perseverance woven intricately with humor and heart. Amidst the scents of jasmine and night-blooming flowers, there lingers an understanding of the absurdity that life, in all its complexities, strives for a resonance of tranquility. Perhaps when one reflects on these details, one marvels at how such intricate lives shaped profoundly aesthetic experiences for others while navigating their own hidden narratives, and maybe, just maybe, that overlapping existence filled with irony gives their art the fragrance of complexity, a reminder of the beauty lingering beneath every facade. As the Shikomi retire each night, envisioning their role within an unpredictable chart of destiny, their gifted quiet moments alone, fragments of solitude wrapped in the embrace of tatami. They await journeys unknown, tickled under the whispers of fate, aware that someday their stories may also sway through the corridors of this evolving life. And so it is, as one reflects on these hidden histories, it brings to mind the simple comforts of our modern age, a plush pillow cradling our heads in peaceful repose, a newspaper whose pages are the least of one's concerns. In our realm of plush comfort, where internet trolls and salt shakers hold more weight than grand expectations, we can take a moment to cherish how far we've come. For when you next nestle into slumber, you can rest assured that at least indoor plumbing ensures you drift off in dignity, something the geisha of old might have found quite intriguing. The banquets hosted by nobles, glittering evenings meant to dazzle, often commenced with the anticipation of what flavors would flood the senses. The aroma of exotic ingredients mingled with the heady scent of incense, as the gentle sounds of jest and joviality filled the air. An invitation to such gatherings was akin to receiving a ticket to an extravagant parade of pleasures, wrapped in silks and whispered secrets, where laughter floated through the air like confetti at a festival. Yet within all that splendor, one couldn't help but notice the underlying currents of social turmoil, where the elaborate feast stood as a stark contrast to the simplicity of a geisha's life, filled with responsibilities bursting at the seams like a well-worn kimono. The nobles, adorned in fabrics beyond imagination, gorged delicacies while sipping sake from intricately designed cups. What a beautiful source of eye rolls for those who were once tasked with brewing the very beverage that now sustained their whims. Ironically, while some nibbled on rare fowl and marinated fish, the everyday geisha returned to her modest dwelling, inhaling the fragrance of humility in her simpler evening meals. Amidst courses of sea bass presented artfully with edible flowers, what struck the observer was the juxtaposition, a delicate harmony, yet rife with unacknowledged discord. Outside the boundaries of those lavish soirees, life for the geishas unfolded like the soft unfurling of petals in the mist of morning dew, no less beautiful, yet markedly different from the royal fanfare. From satin to sheer cotton, there existed a whirlwind of dreams lost on the backstage of societal expectations. As the whispers of aristocratic laughter snaked through halls festooned with elaborate tapestries, one might hear the subtle clink of cream-colored porcelain, atop polished wooden tables slick with the sheen of zesty sauce. It was a different sort of fairy tale, one where words danced lightly, mingling with politesse and unnamed bets upon the evening's entertainment. The performance, however, was never just a mere display, it was a game of perception, where simmering jealousy and longing flitted behind serene smiles, much like the fireflies that illuminated summer nights, a fleeting charm that left admirers awe-stricken, wishing their share of beauty be immortalized. The entertainment length of the geisha's craft echoed in these grand gatherings, with their art walking the line between alluring spectacle and discerning sustenance. On the one hand, unable to shed their engaging personas, geishas remained effortless, flawlessly transitioning from intimate conversations to the more animated tasks of performance. Each note strummed on the shamisen resonated like a heartbeat, sometimes steady, sometimes quickening, reflecting the emotional tapestry of the evening woven into the air. The beauty of it was the delicate balance they maintained, masking the truths that simmered beneath layers of fabric and makeup. They danced, told stories, evoked laughter, all while delicately plucking at the threads of connection with a knowledge of the web they spun, inextricably entwined with the audience circling them. It's particularly amusing to reflect back on those social obligations, now so tangled with the absurdities of life. After all, How many candlelit dinners today are marred by the constant intrusion of smartphones, flashing bright screens and muting shared laughter to mere echoes? Picture instead a world where one's attention was solely devoted to the company present, not constantly interrupted by a ping demanding attention or a picture too heavily filtered to capture the evening's essence. Yet, as history would have it, the laughter would often give way to somber moments of contemplation. When fatigue washed over the night, and shadows began to elongate under the pale glow of lanterns, one could feel the subtle shift, a reminder of life's relentless pace. This interplay between merriment and melancholy resulted in an elegant symphony, the very essence of geisha life laid bare within the dimming lights. Perhaps the modern equivalent dwells in the fleeting interactions of happy hour, where drinks flow mimicking the way sake once poured freely from flasks. Laughter masks the vulnerabilities, chasing away the ancient echoes of solitude whilst inviting new anxieties. In the corners of those noble abodes, we find the geishas, the ever-watchful participants at the periphery, where silken sleeves brushed against ornately crafted chinaware. Each beaded hairpin glistened as they flitted about the room like graceful moths, drawn to the flickering lanterns illuminating their artful surroundings, their minds ever keen. Here, the moving tapestry of life continued to unfold seamlessly. Patrons would vie for attention, their eyes eager to catch the smallest glimpse of a smile or twinkling laugh that always seemed deliberately just beyond reach. Throughout the banquet, the gathering resonated with the vibe of a warped theater where all desires ultimately converged into one single moment, an understanding that lived in silence between the practiced gaiety and their own tumultuous inner worlds. A chalky residue of unfulfilled dreams coated the air, lending a surreal quality to the grand nature of it all, a paradoxical statement against the very essence of celebration, where gratitude intertwined with ever-burgeoning melancholy almost seamlessly. As nighttime crept over Kyoto, delicate shadows danced along the walls, revealing the unspoken truths lingering between each laugh. The promise of the night beckoned with hushed allure, promising an escape, a dreamlike quality where disappointment remained a distant thought hidden behind veils of silk. Amidst rich food and flowing wines, the aftertaste would inevitably hint at sacrifices made to please rather than indulge themselves, each sip of sake, both exquisite and bittersweet, echoing the seasonality of their own lives intertwined within the perpetual cycle of expectation. From banquets and powders to the echoing rooms of tea-houses filled with laughter, the nuanced threads of geisha life spiraled into one singular experience, a juxtaposition of suffering and charm that felt almost like a delicate dance, edging forward to balance art with the relentless march of time. One could easily wax poetic about the irony of how the modern spread of endless food options is accompanied by far fewer occasions of enchanting company. Couldn't our ancestors have somehow known that fried chicken served alone in front of the television would barely touch the whimsy of a shared meal at the foot of a silk embellishment? Perhaps it was in our forebears' charm to dangle culture and laughter so eloquently before us only to have us rediscover it in sluggish solitude. As the essence of those very interactions washes over us, we find ourselves moving gently towards the conclusions linked together by ages of practice, connecting dots through the hallway of existence. One cannot escape the weight of dessert when contemplating the lessons handed to us by the gentle contours of geisha life, drawing inspiration from both past and present. Each encounter, like a spoonful of sweet red bean paste, remains both comforting and challenging, a reminder that within the threads of history, we may find warmth against the chilling winds of change. Let us glide quietly through time, reflecting a final moment upon the feasts, festivities, and world-weary trials faced by our geisha ancestors. What tremendous grace they possessed, knitting together identities, responsibilities, and cultural heritage through the air thick with incense wafting from lanterns that guided them through the long shadows of both society and self. So now, as you prepare for sleep and perhaps stumble upon your own evening banquet of dreams, remember to send a small nod upwards to those graceful souls who danced elegantly on your behalf. contending as much with their fates as you do with your own. For in the simple balance of life's table, the greatest feast lies within the stories we hold close, the laughter and love, the mishaps and warmth, allowing nostalgia to nestle softly against your dreams. In this modern world of chaos, where social obligations clash with technology's distractions, know that the quiet evenings amidst banquets of bygone eras will always whisper back to us, urging us to lean into stillness amidst the swirling patterns of life, a gentle reminder of the beauty nested in moments cherished, both grand and mundane. And as you close your eyes, entrusting your thoughts to the gentle embrace of sleep's sweet embrace, reflect for a moment on the existence of indoor plumbing, and how our nightly retreats no longer require oxen drawing water from a well. Quite the upgrade, wouldn't you say?